Hello and welcome to the GeForce SC2 Pro-Am presented by NVIDIA. This is the AM part, and I'm Day 9.
I'm Husky. Now we do have, once again, as Sean just said, it is the AM, which means we are looking at people who willingly signed up. We did not invite them. They had to go out on their own, like children, going free into the world, moving out from their parents' house to join this tournament. And they have made it so far through the tournament, and they are vying to, continue on through the tournament. Whoever makes it through the finals of this is going to be placed in that last championship bracket, and going to be pretty interesting to see who makes it through the amateur division.
And we do have Complexity's RSVP amazingly putting the pylon in his main, and you might ask yourself, now why would he do that? Well, PicNic has been playing random in this match. We didn't get the chance to make VODs for the first two games. This is the third game. This is the deciding game. These players are tied 1-1. In game 1, we had RSVP with a dominating performance in a very standard PVT. In game 2, PicNic spawned as Terran and ended up doing the 1-1-1 Banshee Tank Marine all-in, and it didn't work. But Wave 2 did. And PicNic had to pull all his SCVs. He had 2 SCVs at the end of the game, and RSVP ended up with none. So now here we are on Shakuras Plateau, and I think RSVP is going to be a little shocked to find out his opponent is Zerg. Versus 2 of the 3 races, this is the correct way to open. But versus this particular race, Zerg, you really want to be early expanding.
Yeah, against a Zerg, or against a random player, I always like to just wall in, just to be safe. He cancels the gateway, goes for the forge. He scouted in there. I think that may be a huge misread, just because there's a hatchery down there. So I'm kind of curious as to why he's doing that. He's going to cannon rush it. So it's not a misread at all. It is a trying to punish that hatchery.
Yeah, virtually always, if you see an early hatch, any form of cannon rushing is going to be effective. We've even seen OGS MC go gateway first, build a geyser, then see that it was a hatch first. He cancels the geyser, builds a forge, and cannon rushes, and it works. We do see the forge is about to finish up, and there's the cannon going down. And there's really not that much that PicNic can do about this. He will have to pull back with this drone. The hatch is getting close to done, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to defend this. And it looks like he's just going to abandon ship and go for another expand.
Yeah, it would be a really smart choice here. Is that cannon going to be in range of that hatchery? One thing that probe can do to get out if he needs to is make an assimilator and then go inside of it and then pop out on the other side. Not sure if that's going to be coming into effect here. And no, he does force the cancel right there. Although you got to be really careful. If the timing is perfect, you can actually cancel the cannon and then just wait until they expand there again.
That's actually really cool. We do see a Roach Warren going down. We see cannon rush attempt number 2 going down, and he doesn't manage to successfully wall himself in. But that would have been absolutely brutal if he did the cannon rush into double cannon rush.
Well, I think he's going to continue trying as that probe is in a good spot to do that. Does go ahead and drop that cannon down right there. And we are going to have to see some roaches or zerglings to delay this. There's the zerglings right now, so they are going to be able to take that out, it looks like. Going for the probe, though, buying a little bit of time. Don't know if the cannon's going to be able to complete here or not. It still has a ways to go, as cannons take an extremely long time to complete. But right now, it does look like our Zerg player able to sit on those 3 bases. So far, able to hold off this cannon rush just fine.
And it looks like the cannon's getting close to completing. And he actually cancels it. I think he could have killed off these Zerglings. I will never tell a lie. But it looks like RSVP is going to stop just doing cheese after cheese after cheese because, hell, if you cannon rush successfully twice, this Roach Warren that was being built, he could just build roaches and attack immediately and win. So RSVP going for the later game, I think doing a decent job of responding after doing that opening that would worked only versus random.
Yeah, now he did kill off his own pylon there to let that probe escape. Again, an assimilator would have been a slightly more cost-effective thing to do, but eventually all those buildings are going to get taken out anyways. And at this point, we're at 6 minutes. Our Protoss player just now getting his gateway. But Sean, do you think the cannon rush at this point in the game was worth it? Is our Protoss player going to be safe now that Roach Warren was canceled?
I actually think it hurt Protoss a little bit more, just due to the lateness of this gateway. Doing a big, mass, fancy cannon rush, I'm trying to think of what edge our Protoss player has, and it looks like it is going to be in the worker count. That's where he has the biggest lead. His tech, though, is far, far delayed. If Protoss decides to do something like fast Void Ray or fast DT or fast Blink, None of those will be effective because they rely on the quickness of getting up said tech. But if he does do something like a big gateway push, that I think would be really strong because it's a way to exploit his higher probe count.
Yeah, that's something we see time and time again on this map. There's a lot of places to put those hidden pylons. You can put them behind the shrubberies, you can put them on the high ground, and it's just very, very effective, especially since our Zerg player is kind of spread thin. I mean, he still doesn't have his natural. His 2 expansions are kind of off in the middle of nowhere, so massive amounts of gateways would be a really good read by our Protoss player. He does have +1 attack, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that on the way. Now, it does look like PicNic decided to go for a bunch of drones, but that was after he got a bunch of Zerglings, following it up with a couple of Spore Crawlers here. You can see that he's afraid or predicting that there's going to be DTs. Instead, it is going to be a lot of gateways.
Yeah, you know, I think that PicNic is not correctly recognizing the situation he's in. He's kind of going into autopilot. He's saying, all right, I wanted to get 3 bases up, and I want to be going drones and getting this Zergling upgrade. This is very, very common, especially to get Roach Warren up, get a couple of Roaches in there as well. This is as standard as it comes for PicNic. But he needs to recognize the fact that he got cannon rushed, and then he saw his opponent's gateway #1 go down super ultra late. So that means that he can easily delay these Spore Crawlers. No chance of air, no chance of DTs coming that quickly.
Now, the gateway is going to be wrapping up here in just a moment. One Zealot gets taken out. He was attempting to grab that watchtower all by his lonesome. But this is one of those situations where, as a Protoss player, oh, nice usage of the map here, by the way, putting that pylon on that side so you can warp in on the right side. But this is one of those situations where you're very vulnerable to an attack. Like, these Zerglings could easily get inside the main base until your gateways are done. Now, it is going to look like it's 5 or 6 gates here, and he will have the +1 attack. We'll see if this timing is going to be better than what we saw in the last game. There's putting the gateway right there, so Zerglings cannot make it inside the main base, and he may try and go for it here. This may be a fairly big mistake, unless he can actually snipe it. No, he isn't able to, and he does have these units getting ready in position to attack, but he did warp them on the left side, which means that they have to run all the way around and can potentially be spotted by that watchtower.
Looks like he wants to play a little bit defensively. We do see, oh, there's the +1 ground armor. The Twilight Council coming up, so it looks like RSVP has plans to do a little bit of late game play. Could be going for Blink, but looks a little bit more like he wants to be going for something Zealot Archon-y, and suddenly we have a bunch of Zealots. Surprise PicNic. Tries to throw down a creep tumor, succeeds, and now look at how quickly those Zerglings burn up to those Zealots with that +1 attack.
Oh, wow. The angle, especially for those Zealots, was phenomenal. The Zerglings were never able to get us around there. That could not have gone better for our Protoss player. He's going to force these units out here, maybe able to force down a hatchery. Now, he is still going up against a 4-base Zerg, so if he kills this off, it's going to be down to 3. The +1 armor, but halfway completed. Here come the very potent Stalkers. Now, if he can keep these Zealots alive, they are going to be a huge role in defending these Stalkers from the Zerglings.
Oh, and it looks like, again, the +1 is so potent. Sure, you have the +1 melee attack, but what he really needed was +1 carapace. +1 carapace is the exact, what literally undoes attack upgrades for these Zealots. It would make those Zerglings go back to 3 hits instead of 2 to die. And now we see desperately trying to pull the Queens into the fray, and with overwhelming numbers, it looks like PicNic is actually going to clean this up.
Yeah, our Protoss player way overextended there. He needed to regroup, get a couple more wave of units inside that composition, and continue marching forward. During this time, though, he has teched up quite a bit. He does have a robotics on the way. These Zealots positioning, once again, is pretty good. And even warping in a couple more Zealots here. If he can kill off these Lings, maybe able to get 3 Queen kills here, which if he is able to get that, that would be a huge victory. But wave after wave of Zerglings are streaming in here, just making these Zealots more and more effective, especially the positioning of them is proving to be fairly strong. And this is one of the longest battles I think I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, this is exhausting. Did he actually
transfuse a Zergling? Or did he transfuse a Zealot?
He may have accidentally transfused a Zealot. We're going to have to go recheck that. 12 minutes, remind me. Wow.
Yeah, 12 and about 25 seconds.
Oh, it looks like we're seeing some Zealot Archon.
I like
this is my favorite composition, and this is a composition that this matchup is slowly skewing towards.
Yeah, especially against the amount of Zerglings we've seen with a +1 attack. Armor is not going to benefit them as much, but it will help out those Zealots. So really, both players being so aggressive here. But can the Archon actually seal the deal here? He is joined up by his buddy, but it's just these Zerglings are so far spread out. Is it going to be enough? Down goes one Archon. The second Archon may go down. No, he wisely retreats to the Zealots. And it looks like our Protoss player continuing to be aggressive.
God, the Archons just do such a ridiculous amount of damage, and Zealot Archon is actually so inexpensive that RSVP is going 8 gateways, non-stop production, and still has a ton of money left over to expand, and even has some in the bank. Meanwhile, it looks like PicNic has not really gotten the chance to get his drone count back up. He's down to 40 versus the 62 of PicNic.
I love this playstyle out of RSVP being so hyper-aggressive, even ready to move out if he decides to. He realizes, oh, I'm getting close to supply block, need to throw down 3 additional pylons. He is going to decide to go for it. He's researching Blink as well, so this shows you the power of a Protoss army if you can keep the drone count low of our Zerg player, and he is going to be going down to this expansion right now.
Oh, Bank of Husky gives you a drone count loan. And now we see the Zealot Archon force trying to slip through the middle. There are only Zerglings here, and if there is any mix of units that is good against Zerglings, it would definitely be Zealot Archon with 1/1 upgrades. And we see the Queens getting caught a little bit off guard, and now it looks like there's the Transfuse to try to keep it alive. The Archons are actually at the front. The Zealots can't quite do enough damage. This would be an amazing defense by PicNic, amazingly able to have his Zerglings with 1/1 pick off Zealot Archon. My God, that's incredible.
Now, both Archons are still alive. Oh, but a misclick there. Had them running down south rather than towards the Zealots. But I don't know if the Archons are going to be able to hold off versus the Roaches. You got to remember the Archons do additional damage versus the Roaches. But continuing to use that Transfuse, buying just enough time. I feel like I'm watching Micro Arena, where you have to micro those Roaches versus the Archons. And so far, it has been working very well. Lots of Transfuses going down. And it does look like these 3 Queens proving to be so frustrating for just the melee units.
So now we see a couple sentries thrown down for RSVP up at his new base. Ooh, it's looking a little thin on the defense. If PicNic actually goes and rushes straight up here, he will easily kill it off. We see PicNic doing a decent job of macroing his Queens, finally able to return back home to transfusal duty. But if RSVP can get this third up and running, that is doom time for Zerg.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the amount of units he has, he can begin his Immortal production, still continuing to work on those plus upgrades for his attack. He does have 4 cannons being produced here, so kind of transitioning into massive defensive mode. But I mean, we're at 16 minutes into a game. Both players have under 100 supply, which just shows you how aggressive that these players have been throughout this game, warping in a lot of Stalkers. You got to remember that not only do they have the plus attack, which makes them very effective against the Roaches, they also have that very potent Blink, and they're not going up against fungal growth or anything like that. Now, this wall-in isn't complete, so these units could very easily run in here. He's not going to decide to go for it because he is just 1 force field away from losing that entire army. And look at this, a fourth base out of RSVP.
You actually cannot spend your money fast enough when you have like 8 gateways making nothing but Zealot Archon. And now that RSVP even has its additional expansion, 9, 10 gateways, he doesn't give a damn. There's the 4th base re-going up for PicNic, who's suddenly going into crazy macro mode. We see him now finally reaching that money count of drones where it's approaching 70. This has been a very active Evo chamber. He has been doing his job well, working day in and day out to provide you the strongest Zerg units known to man.
Yeah, just sitting there wobbling like crazy. Now, we do have another Robotics here, which could be for Colossus. It could be for a lot of Immortals. Also adding in a Stargate. So, I mean, PicNic's going to have the entire, or not PicNic, excuse me, RSVP is basically going to have the entire tech tree here.
Yeah.
Sans getting a mothership.
Sans. Oh, America, where things are sans. Sans. Drone loans, sans drones. Man, I love words. We now have, looks like double Colossus production. And, you know, if I had to take a gander, I would say that this is going to be the mothership. I think that's the only transition that makes sense that involves 1 Stargate. I definitely don't mind getting a bunch of Void Rays late game off 3 Stargates, but if you're just making 1 and you have this big Zealot Archon Immortal Stalker force...
Oh, Sean. Look at you. There's
Bucketed.
The fleet beacon. I hope he proves us both wrong and goes for carriers. That would just make my day. But I just got to say, going for double Colossus production if your opponent doesn't have Corruptors in time, probably my favorite thing to do as Protoss, just because if you can hit them when you have 4 Colossus and they don't have anything, then that's very difficult to defend with just some Roaches and Zerglings.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 4 Colossi, weirdly enough, is just like that magic number where suddenly the Colossus are doing a ton of damage. A single Colossus, not nearly as strong. It's kind of weird, actually, how weak a 1 Colossus can feel once you get up to that magical number. Oh, and there's the pylon. It's going to get tickled to death. Tickled and then shot with a double plasma cannon. And where will that mothership pop out of? It looks like, ooh, has enough money. Oh.
Is he going to do it? I really am hoping he decides to. But look at the production capabilities he has. He is getting +1 attack, actually, for his air units. I'm wondering if he actually is going to get a carrier. But not sure exactly what his transition is. He is continuing double Colossus production, cleaning up the creep. And there it is. So, Sean, I'm going to go ahead and take a shower and take a nap. And by the time I get back, the mothership will be about halfway done. And then I'm going to be excited.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. RSVP now using those Blink Stalkers to try to clear out the center. He's not blinking away yet. He's waiting until he can get into a secure, safe position. I see a lot of players blink the instant they need to start running, and they just get surrounded and killed and cannot do a second blink, so I like that blink timing. We see, ooh, I love that plus shields upgrades. The upgrades now are 3-1-1 almost. But PicNic has a lot of Mutalisks out right now. This could spell disaster for this relatively low Stalker count from RSVP.
Yeah, we do need to see a maxed out Protoss army here. It looks like he's going to try and move out. There is not a very heavy Corruptor count again, so it does look like the Stalkers should be able to hold this off for now. The upgrade's proving to be very effective. Those Roaches only have the 0-1, although the Blink is on cooldown for our Protoss player, but the Colossus do funnel these units into a choke. Needs to blink over here. That's exactly what he did. Can he take out the Mutas, though? Trying to micro them around, but they are just not good versus this composition, and this is why Corruptor's such a good unit. The Mothership nearly completed here. I don't even know if it's going to see a battle, but we are still going to be happy regardless. I just wish you would be chrono boosting it out a little bit faster.
And now we see RSVP starting to storm the front. He hasn't done another mass warp in quite yet. He could reinforce with a ton of units, but it looks like he already has plenty at the front lines after evaporating that one Mutalisk force. And look at those Colossi just cooking all the Roaches and Zerglings. The blink back will be enough to secure those Stalkers. The Mutalisks are going to fall. PicNic almost down to 0, and ooh, PicNic has left the game. PicNic doing an Idra impersonation there.
Right there, and he didn't even get to see the mothership. How close was that to being done?
Oh.
It was seconds away from being done. But you know what? PicNic, or excuse me, RSVP going out in style. Not really going out, I guess, going into the next round.
That is true.
Being able to get the mothership. I really like his playstyle in this game. The hyper-aggression makes me super happy, Sean.
Oh, it's just so awesome to see that sort of phenomenal play from RSVP, opening with the gateway, canceling Cannon Rush, then expanding and just mixing it all back into a standard Protoss mid-game. That's the real sign of a thinking Protoss player, not someone who follows a build order. And just to reemphasize, there were 10,000 signups who played in round-robin groups for weeks, and the top players were put into the qualifying tournaments. There's 16 qualifying tournaments, and the winners of each qualifying tournament goes on to the final 16-man grand ending of the amateur division. And right now, RSVP has secured himself a top 3 spot in his qualifying tournament. He just needs to win the lower finals, then win the grand finals if he wants to hope to advance to top 16.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So great stuff there. Stay tuned. Make sure to check out the website. They do have the brackets there. And my favorite one is watching the amateur brackets, seeing who is advancing, seeing who is doing good. Obviously, RSVP doing very well as we cast his game today and able to make it quite a ways through there. So regardless, I'm Husky.
I'm Day 9. This has been an amateur edition of the GeForce SC2 Pro-Am. See you next time. The tournament is getting close to wrapping up.